I'd like to talk about pragmatism. Um, the reason I want to talk about it is because just talking about this philosophy um, will help you understand the relationship between um, how you see the world and how you would um, understand how your brain works when you are trying to understand the world. So it helps you understand, it helps you map how a physical thing creates some of the things that you see every single day, because this is the machinery that is um, um, giving you all the thoughts based on all the inputs that you're gathering throughout the day. Um, so I would like to talk about, I think, one of my favorite concepts as far as understanding what pragmatism is, and it's time. And one of the reasons why it's interesting is because time is one of the most abstract things that there are, and it's very difficult to grasp. Talking about time is very difficult. Trying to define time is, in my opinion, impossible. And it's in light of the fact that trying to define time as an impossibility that pragmatism arises. And we realize that trying to define something is, in fact, wrong-headed. Um, and it's based on the reason that, based upon how your brain works when you're coming up with concepts. So I'd like to express the pragmatic maxim, which is basically like how pragmatism started, um, by thinking about time when I say this, the following, which is a pragmatic maxim. Think, if you think of the effects of a concept or of a word, uh, then you're thinking of everything that the concept is. Your whole conception, everything that you think of, including the definition or whatever of a concept, is based on its effects. So the focus of something, the focus of whatever word of concept you're talking about, isn't geared toward the definition of or whatever this is. The only existence of a concept or a word is based on the effect that this has on a multitude of things. Um, and this is based on how your brain works. The way your brain works is when you see something, there are synapses going on and you recognize something. And if at that moment something else is also happening, and there's a, let's say, imaginary, figuratively, there's like other synapses happening at that time, and then other synapses happening when you notice the other thing, then it's the firing of all these synapses at the same time when these three events are happening, which makes all these three things brought together as one concept, because these three are happening at the same time. They seem to be correlated, or causation seems to be happening, and it's the firing of all these synapses, which is the analogy for seeing these events happen in your field of view, or any senses that seems to be happening at that time, that when they're all brought together, then the concept that you're going to invent its only purpose is to define how the effect that this concept has on all these things as they correlate to each other. Now, let's talk about time. In light of what I said, if you think about time, the only thing that can be said about time is what the effects of time are. So when you if you think about something getting older, if you see some wrinkles on a face, this is a sign of time, the passage of time. So the effect of time on a person is that there's going to be some wrinkles. And where does that come from? Well, actually, if you want, you could plot a graph of time as on the x-axis, which is the independent variable, upon the depth or the quantity of wrinkles, or how much wrinkles there are in a face. And you're going to see a very definite correlation. Like, very young people will not have wrinkles, and very old people will have a lot. So what does that say? Well, it's a way of telling a story. It's a way of creating causation, because you want causation. Why do you need causation? Because whenever something happens, you need to have a why. You need to know what caused it. That's how your brain works. You want to know what caused it. Why? The reason is, when your brain sees something happening and it wants to know what caused it, in fact, it's just an interpretation of the fact that there were a lot of other neurons firing before. So there's always links trying to be established. So what's going on inside the brain is very hard to describe, but what we know is the result of it, which we can speak about. And what we can speak about is the fact that we are looking for causation. We always want to be able to predict things, understanding. When you say why something happens, there are a million answers that are intelligible and are sensible. But what you're essentially asking, without maybe you knowing, is you just want to know one thing that happens before this, which seems to be causing it. And then you're going to have the satisfaction. When you ask why, you're just looking for a satisfaction of understanding an event that will come before it, which, when it happens, will help you predict the other event happening. So essentially, we're looking for causation, and if you want, you can invent something, because it is helpful to you to as a tool that seems to be causing things that are happening that you've noticed, which is not like dependent on someone, but we sort of need to formulate a way that gives us the impression that something is causing something else to happen. So when we invent time, we invent a concept which seems to have not a personality, but a gradation. So if you want, you could say when someone is on the happiness scale is very low, which is very unhappy, he's likely to do this. When he's very happy, he's likely to do this. And this kind of gradation of personality to predict how people work, what people will do, is kind of analogous to the concept of inventing something like time. And instead of like the happiness scale, you're just creating a scale which is based on one period of whatever you want to invent, which could be a pendulum, it could be a frequency of light or whatever, but you're just creating like a gradation saying when instead of like low happiness or high happiness, we're saying when at low time, like at time 1, for example, what happens? At time 10, what happens? Um, so, um, so this concept of time is invented just because it is useful as a tool to explain effects that we want to explain. The focus is on the effect, not time itself. Spending a lot of time thinking about time is wrong-headed. You want to see what are the effects of time, and you expand your understanding of time by discovering new ways in which things are related to time. And this is what pragmatism is. If you think about any concept, any word that you want, think about how you think of time as it relates to its effects, and you can use that model to think about anything else, and you're going to realize that how you experience a certain word and a certain concept will be related to all the effects that you have witnessed in your own life. And this is why everyone has a different relationship with words and concepts. The core of the concept and the word are shared with everyone, but you have your own experiences with them. And the more you have experience with a certain word, the more you expand how you how you can understand the effect of whatever in your own life. And I think this is one of the steps. I think this is where you can understand how much flexibility you have with creating words and creating concepts, because they will be helpful, they will be pragmatic to you to create relationships that you are trying to explain for yourself. So there you go.